Hello everybody, welcome back. Jiu-Jitsu 2000 here today. Today's topic is an interesting video, and that's talking about fire starting tinders, and more specifically Wetfire. Okay, this is made by UST, Ultimate Survival Technologies. This is really good stuff. It burns in and out of water. It doesn't matter if it's raining, it doesn't matter if it's wet, or if it got underwater, it doesn't matter. The cool thing about this stuff is that it lasts for about 3 months once you open the package. If you don't open the package, I guess I could say, and you just leave it in there, it'll have a shelf life of up to about 5 years. So it's a really cool tinder for fire starting. So I'm going to take you through the process of Wetfire and show you what it looks like and what it does and some of the capabilities that it has. But I also want to talk about another type of fire starting tinder that I found out. These are the Weber lighter cubes for barbecue grills. I found these at Lowe's. Okay, now when it comes to Wetfire, I can buy a package like this. Happened to find this at Walmart. I believe I paid about $4.97, so basically $5, and there's 5 little pieces of Wetfire in here. Well, this Weber lighter cubes, there's 24 cubes in here, and they're a little bit bigger than the Wetfire. They're sealed, and it was around $3.50. So really what this video is going to be is a comparison of the two, because I think that I've found something very similar to Wetfire. So I'm going to run it through some tests, and we'll see what the differences are and what the similarities are. So I hope you enjoy this video. So during the testing, I'm going to basically move the Wetfire package to the left of the table, and I'm going to put the Weber packaging on the right of the table. And I'm going to go ahead and open this up and basically expose the Wetfire, and I'm also going to expose the Weber cubes. Comes in a nice little package, and you can see that it has a moist look to it, saturated, and when you smell it, you can definitely smell that it's moist. Now I'm going to punch one of these Weber lighting cubes. Whoops. Kind of looks like the same thing, doesn't it? I noticed that the Weber cubes are a little larger. They're light, just like the Wetfire. They have kind of a styrofoamy kind of feel to them, I guess you could say. Okay, now on the directions for Wetfire, it basically says that you take a knife and you put down some shavings. So I'm going to just basically cut just a little bit off here. Just a couple little shavings. Nothing too crazy. Okay? So there's my little pile of Wetfire shavings. I'm going to do the same thing here with the Weber lighting cube. I'm just going to cut a few little shavings off. They both have the similar feel when you cut the shavings off. I can tell that the consistency or the feel is the same. They feel very, very similar. Okay, I have a small glass of bowl of water here. I'm basically going to take the Wetfire dunk it in the water. I'm also going to take the Weber lighting cube and dunk it in the water. Notice they both float. They're both wet. I went ahead and killed some of the lights so that when I fire these up you'll be able to see them a little easier. So all the lights are down. Now let's take a look. I'm going to light the Wetfire. Let me go ahead and light the Weber. Well, from that point of view they look pretty much the same. You can see around the pile of them that it's kind of getting a little bit moist on the table, like the fuel is coming out or something. So as far as lighting, as far as I'm concerned, they look the same as far as lighting them. I'm just using a little welding spark, you know, that you would use to start your welder. So that's Wetfire on the left. That's the other one on the right, the Weber. I'll go ahead and let those burn out. And then we'll talk about these guys that are dunked. You know, they're underwater. They advertise, at least Wetfire advertises anyway, that this stuff will burn while it's being in water. So we'll test them and see if that's true. So I'm going to take the Wetfire out. Notice it's fresh out of the water. Shake it. Give it a couple shaves. And we'll cut her up and see if that stuff will ignite. And you can see that my hands are clearly wet. Let's take a look and see. There it goes. Now let's take and light this cube. Set it in the water. Looks like I didn't quite get it lit the way I wanted. They say that it'll stay lit even in water. I think it's going out because it's actually dunking under. So there's basically the float test. Notice it's burning right on top of the water. Put it out to dunk it to put it out. Another thing that they were advertising was Wetfire can be easily put out in your hand. Hopefully I can get this lit. There. You see how it's lit on fire? They say that you can just drop it in your hand and close and put it out, and there's no heat to it. It's not hot like a cotton ball would be. Okay, you see, I'll do it again. You see it's clearly on fire. Doesn't hurt, nothing. It's not hot to the touch. That's pretty neat. Okay, so now let me do this test on the Weber cube. Same thing. Let me clear my table a little bit, get this stuff out of the way. Bear with me. Okay, here comes the Weber cube. You can obviously see that it's been floating. I'm going to do the same test. A little shake to get the water off. Do a little shaving. Let's go ahead and see if that'll light. Looks like it lit just fine. Let's try the float test. Clearly on fire, right? See if I can get in there without dunking it. So look at the Weber cube. It's also floating on the water just like the Wetfire does. Go ahead and submerge it to put it out. Now let's try the hot test, you know, by putting it out in your hand. A little bit hotter than the Wetfire, but not bad. Let's try it again. Back the camera out here. Not bad at all. One more time for good measure. Not really any heat to it. It's kind of neat. So as far as I can tell, by my little bit of testing just here, they're pretty much the same thing. You know, I don't think they're exactly the same, but I do think they have a lot of similarities. I think they're almost the same. And considering, you know, the Wetfire, like I say, you pay $5 for 5 pieces, or you could pay $3 for 24 pieces. I think it was 24 pieces. Yeah, 24 cubes, and they're larger cubes. And once you start them like this and you get them kind of into this state, they say in the packaging, at least for the Wetfire, they say that once you open the packaging, you can use it over and over and over for starting fires. And they also recommend that if you have any kind of plastic or saran wrap or any kind of baggie or something, to put it in there to keep it, you know, to keep it moist, I guess you could say. There's one more thing that I want to look at. Let me clean my table here. And that is the content of the material. And let me cut a little square off here. They have kind of a spongy texture to them, and when you squeeze them, this is the Wetfire right now, it has like a liquid. See how the tips of my fingers are coated? They were dry a second ago. So it's kind of like a cross between a sponge and a, one of those cups, those white styrofoam cups. It's kind of, that's kind of the consistency of it. Almost like if you were to take wax, a styrofoam cup, and a sponge and combine all three of those properties, that's kind of what it reminds me of. Go ahead and clean my hand, dry my fingers. I'm going to try the same thing with the Weber. See if it has the same kind of feel. Okay, see, my fingers are dry again. Let's try with the Weber cube. Let's see if it has the same consistency. It does. See, my fingers are kind of getting wet. Kind of interesting. Let's do the Wetfire again. I kind of rolled it in my fingers and it made little balls. Let's see if this does it. Yep, does the same thing. So anyway, that's my comparison of Wetfire versus the Weber lighting cubes. I think they're pretty much the same thing. I think I'm going to invest in the Weber cubes to put into my survival pack. You know, simply based on the fact, like I said, you get 24 of them, and they're larger cubes. So you, for the money for the the best bang for the buck is what I'm trying to say. I would highly recommend these Weber cubes. So anyway, I hope you found this video useful. I hope I gave you some good information here. And I want to say thanks again, everybody, for watching. Please feel free to comment, as always. Please feel free to subscribe. And have a beautiful day. I'm going to light these and let them float. Hopefully, anyway. Kind of neat. I'm just going to let them burn and let you check them out. So have a good day, everybody. Bye-bye. That was interesting. It looked like the flames were attached to each other almost as if it was magnetic. That was a trip. Later. Have a beautiful day.